looking to expand your income and make more money with those social work side hustles? Well, today you're going to learn the 5 steps to becoming a zoning specialist. As always, hit the subscribe below and a little bell that lets you know when a new hustle tip is on the way. As always, right? Who am I to be talking about this? Again, I'm Tiffany Tait. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, certified daring waste specialist, essentially homebound in the middle of pandemic. But our history is that myself and my business partner, who's a psychologist, built a portfolio, a multi-million-dollar portfolio from zero startup capital. We ain't had no money. And made that a multi-million-dollar portfolio in the course of 5 years. But we did that by starting with small-scale side hustles and flipping those into larger equity and distribution deals. That's another story, a longer story. But in the meantime, let's talk about the side hustles that gave us the money to be able to play that game, right? Step 1. What is a zoning support specialist, right? So anytime you see a building being built, and specifically within our industry, a hospital, a treatment center, even an outpatient doctor's office or an outpatient therapy office. All of these can only be put into certain places. Every piece of real estate in the United States has what we call zoning attached to that. And the zoning tells you what you can build or what sort of business you're able to have and in what area. So we can own a number of properties. Let's say we own 5 properties. In essence, one can be zoned for residential and we could go build a house there. One can be zoned for residential with restrictions, meaning there's like an HOA involved you have to include in building. One can be commercial. One can be commercial restricted to healthcare. One can be, and even healthcare gets tricky, outpatient, detox. And so the city and the municipality are very, very specific as to what you can build and what you can operate where. And because this varies literally by municipality, we're here in South Florida and we joke a lot with Palm Beach County, which our business is not in Palm Beach County, but we do a lot of business there. In any one of these cities, we're dealing with the Palm Beach municipality as well as the smaller city municipality in order to build hospitals and so forth. So in a nutshell, what is a zoning specialist? A person who knows about the actual property and how you can utilize that property. And better yet, how you can take the uses that you don't want and flip them into the uses that you need. That is what makes this side hustle lucrative. Let's be honest, this is a quite untraditional world usually for social workers, but social workers tend to be innately good at this. And this is why we like to hire clinicians and social workers in our consulting firm to be able to do these kind of gigs, because it is a lot of paperwork. It is a lot of busy work. It's not difficult work, but it is busy and it takes a lot of meticulous paperwork, applications, and patience. And social workers tend to be really good at that. So zoning really looks like you're going to a zoning office, which usually architects and things like this handle, right? But for us in healthcare, we've learned that social workers are better at this. And I'll tell you why. In order for anything to build anywhere, you need to have the proper zoning. So when Lily and I go to build a new treatment center, which we do quite often, that's one of our larger investments, we have to look at the zoning. And we have a partner that we work with in a different firm who does all of our zoning for us. She's super good at this, and we learned to carve that out to her over the years. But this is not hard work. This is extremely tedious work. This is looking at the zoning, and let's say we want to buy a property and we want to put a detox in that property, but it's not zoned for a detox. There are loopholes to flipping the zoning to be able to utilize what you need in that space. And so for the purposes of social work side hustles, we're talking about flipping that zoning. That's what I'm referring to. So we have consultants, i.e. social workers and clinicians, that go into the municipalities and they say, what is this particular unit zoned for, this particular address, and how do I get this rezoned? 9 times out of 10, the person at the zoning office is going to say, you can't. You can. Every municipality is different on how they allow you to do this. And this is where the zoning specialist meticulous nature and their need for staying on top of things and doing paperwork comes in. Because the next steps are going to be filing the application for changing the zoning to what you need it to be, as well as sometimes there are hearings within the local community to say why you need this particular building. And this is why it pays to be a social worker. If you're working in healthcare and there's a zoning issue and you need to go explain to City Hall why we need to build this in this place, what better person than a social worker or a clinician to explain the acute need for whatever kind of clinical building is being built, right? Whether it is a hospital or a treatment center, it's clearly based on need. So usually social workers are very good at presenting that need and being able to do the paperwork associated with the application. We have used architectural firms for this, things of that nature. They're not as quick and not as savvy as social workers. I'm being very honest. And so there is something in learning about zoning in your particular municipality. Step 3, as always, research. We don't jump into anything without knowing what we're going to get and is it worth it, right? Is this headache going to be worth it? And for zoning, you have to determine the actual zoning regulations and which ones you may be able to work with and deal with and learn the process. So this looks a little different in terms of research. With zoning, this is taking care of really regionally specific and directly within the municipalities like we spoke about. So I would suggest looking at exactly where you live right here, right now, because there is in-person work to do a lot. So look at the area you live in and the surrounding counties. And I would want to pull, and this is literally online, simply Google real estate and property zoning regulations. And they'll pull it up and tell you exactly what each zoning means. And then you also want to look, like if it's zoned with an H, what does that mean in one county? Because that can change per county too. But you also want to look at the process for changing a zoning regulation. That's what you're specifically interested in. Go pull that from your county and the counties around you and look at what that process looks like. Usually this process is going in, scheduling a meeting, and that's the beauty of this kind of gig, right? Like you set this on your own time. This is not something that could be done in a 9-to-5 kind of job. You're setting your own time and you're creating your own flexibility in this. But you're setting a time, you're going in there, you're attempting to get this flipped. They're going to tell you no, you're going to tell them yes, you're going to take the application, you're going to pay the fees, or the organization is going to pay the fees that's paying you. And then you're going to go advocate. Again, this should be thought of as an advocacy role because it is your job to fight on behalf of the organization to get this zoning redone and based on the needs of that organization and the population that they're helping. So you're going to simply research, Google, you're right around you in your geographical area. What are the zoning regulations and what are the steps to change zoning? And you determine, is this something that I could do and that I'm interested in? Because if so, this can be quite lucrative because this is not just about healthcare. We'll talk a little bit about more how to land those clients and how to expand that money. Step 5, getting paid. So to land your first client, I would literally suggest after you've done the research and you've decided on zoning and decided what areas you're willing to work with, you also want to go and call law offices, architecture firms that do this day to day and ask how much do they charge? Right? And you want to find out if there are other people paying for this service or for zoning support, whether it be an architectural firm or a law firm that tend to handle these, right? The beauty of a social worker is we usually undercut them in price and get it done quicker. So you could take a lot of that business and it's not just for treatment. Once you learn how to rezone, you learn how to rezone, right? So you could be looking at real estate companies, law firms, architecture firms. This can be very wide and broad in your own particular area, not just stuck to social work. So these are one of these really unique hustles that we like. And this usually goes hand in hand with people who are really good at the compliance section as well, but not necessarily. Determine if it works for you. Go out and find a few architecture firms and determine if they're looking for anybody and what their rates are so you know how to position your rates. And then it's extremely easy to find clients anybody who's building at any given time. The first thing you want to know is if you're adding an extension, if you're building something, any organization you see, if they're pulling up permits, they're dealing with zoning and permits. You want to put your name in the game for any conversation that you hear regarding building. So getting networking done with real estate and all these other marketing avenues, that can bring you a lot of reciprocated business back that is not stuck specifically to healthcare. So now you guys know the 5 steps to becoming a zoning specialist, where you got to go to do the research and how to get paid. For the best tips always on that social work hustle, as always, look below, hit that subscribe. And if you're ever interested in working out on more of a one-on-one basis on business strategy or executive leadership development, my link's below for one-on-one coaching as well. You guys have a wonderful week.